What's up, twisted people? It's your girl, Chauncey K. Robinson, aka Twisted Woman CKR. Oh my gosh, I lost. It's Monday, y'all. It's Monday. I forgot my last letter in my initials that my mama named me of. And of course, my mama is here because we got to talk about how someone turned into a Karen this episode, which my mom can't stand because she does not like the fact that people get called Karens because her name is Karen. And she's like, I am not a Karen. I tried to explain to her, y'all, that this is really something that is reserved for white women, but you know, she ain't feeling that. But yeah, so thank you all so much for joining us here today as we talk live about Charmed, episode 8, season 3. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about in regards to what's going on here. And some heavy topics happened along with some a few interesting developments in terms of relationships. It was a very interpersonal kind of story this episode, even though we got some developments in the overarching mystery of the allergy that the sisters are dealing with. So we are dealing with that. And so we got some things to talk about, some interesting developments between certain relationships and things like that and whatnot. So we'll be diving into that. So we want to talk about our overall thoughts, our situation with what particularly happened this episode, our theories, and of course we got to get into ship talk because it wasn't overt, but there were some shippy type things going on for better or worse this episode. And I want to posit a question towards all of you. And I already know the answer. Some of you are already going to give me, but there was a main question that happened with everyone's favorite character, Abby, this episode about whether or not she was redeemable. And I want y'all to let me know in the comment section. For those of you who are joining us in the live chat, always appreciate it. And all of you who are joining us in the replay, equally appreciate it. If you think the Abby character is redeemable, do you think she can be redeemed? Let me know, comment down below and also in the chat. And then also give me your theories about what you think now that the tablet has been joined together, what that means for the charmed ones. And if we are one step closer to finding out why there's this allergic reaction going on. Okay. Damie is already letting us know. I knew she'd be one of the first. Abby is irredeemable. Damie is letting us know that there is no redemption for Abby. What do you think, Ma?
I think she's going to be redeemable.
Yeah.
I felt, yesterday episode, when she asked that question, when she asked Jordan that question, if she's redeemed, I think she's redeemable. Everybody's redeemable. Mm-hmm. Even Abigail.
Yeah, I agree with you. Blue Wolf is saying she's redeemable, but they need to stop treating her like an enemy.
Yeah,
agree. I agree with you, Blue Wolf.
I really agree with him on that one.
Erica is letting us know, hey, I love Jordan, period. He can do no wrong in my eyes. I think I agree with you, Erica, that we are definitely feeling Jordan, particularly in this episode, but in all episodes, because he's so cool, right? Overall, and I think he really showed through this episode in terms of everything. But yeah, thank you all for joining us in this chat thus far. Damie is saying, Macy said it about time they vanquish her. But Damie, you have to remember, Macy said that when she was in a really negative space and mood, though, right? She said that, but she said it when she was in a negative mood. So I think there's something to be said for the fact that she said that in that kind of moment. Jaylee is saying, other than being creepy with Harry, what has she really done that would make her on either side in terms of Abby? That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Stephanie is saying, hurt people. Abby can most definitely be redeemed. Agree. I agree. I lean on the fact that she can be redeemed, Ma. What do you think?
Yeah, I think she can be redeemed because in a way, Abby got a vulnerable side. She showed it sometimes, even though, you probably didn't see it, but I saw some vulnerable time, when she went into that mode, like when she really looked at Jordan and asked him, like, do you think she's right about that? And then he looked at her and he told, in his own way, he said, everybody's redeemable.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, where is your light at? Is your light on?
Of course, my light's on.
All right, good.
Brighter now.
Yes, brighter, just like you, my son.
Well, like I said, I think Abigail is redeemable.
Yeah, Stephanie is saying a lot of male characters in other shows have done much worse, and audience members are always rooting for them. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that, right? There seems to be a double standard sometimes with certain characters. I mean, Jordan pulled some stuff. Not Jordan, sorry. Jordan has not pulled anything. Jordan is awesome. Parker pulled some stuff, and you had plenty of people still rooting for him and Maggie, right? And there was this whole thing, maybe his good side will come through. And I do think you're onto something there, Stephanie, that at times male characters are giving a little bit more space to be bad seeds and bad apples, you know, so they're allowed to be the bad boy a bit more than the woman is allowed to be the bad girl. And so I think there's something to be said for that. Liliana is saying, I think Jordan's speech at the end hit it about redemption. It was meta for the audience. Erica also said, Dr. Macy Vaughn deserved better. They need to put some respect in her name. Yes, we will be talking about Macy's situation this episode for sure. Stephanie says, think of Jamie from Game of Thrones. That is very true. Oh my gosh. Yes, there was definitely some stuff there. Damie said, Jordan, my guy, killed it again, getting through to Abby. O'Dane is saying, Abby is redeemable if she truly wants to learn from her mistakes and start making better choices. Surround herself with things and people that are good for her. Exactly. I agree with you. And I think it'll be interesting if they'll go that road with her. And we'll get into that. But that's, that's the question of it.
Isn't she the head of the demons?
She is, but this is the thing. Who says demons have to be necessarily evil? They are who they are, but there's not something saying that they have to do bad things. They come from the same power source as witches, right? And there's this kind of confirmation bias, as Maggie talked about this episode, which we'll talk about, where it dealt with this thing of you automatically assume based off of your bias about a group that they're going to be doing something wrong. Yeah. And the question is, especially in the magical world, maybe a lot of the demons have gotten a bad rap in, the fact their power source comes from the same thing as the witches. They're two sides of the same coin, yet it's the witches that are deemed light and love and the demons that get the thing of not being that. So the question is, who decided that? Especially, I think this is something that's going to have to come into question because of the fact that now we have this ancient power structure that's seeping through, and that's neither witch or demon, right? So the question is, if something could exist before that, why do the demons and the witches have to be on two opposite sides of the spectrum? You know what I mean? So I think that's something. Jaylee is saying, I think I'm confused as to what she is being redeemed from. She's been more manipulative with the demon world than outright evil. I think you're right there too. I don't think Abby has ever been completely like, I'm going to kill everybody kind of deal. She's been manipulative. She's power hungry. But I mean, we have a culture in our society that's hustle culture, right? Where it's like, do what you got to do to get ahead. Fake it till you make it. No one calls people like that evil. They just are. They're power hungry types, They're maybe not the most humanitarian, but they're not out and out. They need to be vanquished, Jayla is saying Abigail. Okay, Jayla, sure. Already calling her a name. Will probably be redeemed by these writers, but she is irredeemable. She never acknowledges what she has done to Macy. O'Dane is saying Abby is in conflict with who she truly is. That is why her demon is lashing out.
Yes.
And Liliana is pointing out to Jaylee that that Jaylee has a good question. For me, it feels like a redemption for Abigail non-fans. Yeah. For those who might have condemned Abigail based off of how she's treated certain characters that we know and love. But if we look at it from an objective point of view, it's a question of whether or not she's truly evil or just she's done things to characters we love. So we automatically don't like her even more. I think that's the real thing that some of us might have to grapple with. That may not be so much that we think she's evil, but that we don't like how she has behaved with characters that we care about.
Yeah, I'm not like that. I just see Abigail as Abigail.
Yeah.
I'm not against her,
Mm-hmm.
but I think she is redeemed. But I think she bring more to the to the show.
I think she adds stuff to the scene. I think all their extra characters. I love that they have extra characters. Sorry, y'all. I'm just fixing my lighting here.
But I think Abigail is, don't give her a bad. Don't. Abigail is gonna come through in some way. I think Abigail gonna come through, through for them on something. Something's coming.
Mm-hmm. So, Ma, what were your overall thoughts of the episode? And let us know in the chat and also in the replay what your overall thoughts of the episode were. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Do you think it's one of your favorites so far?
Girl, I liked it. Boy, if I was, I just, when I felt like being with Macy when I was with Macy. Poor baby. And then when they did that and the way they did it to show what happened with her, I think this was a good show. I liked it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I liked it, everything about it. From Mel to Macy with Harry, all of them. It was a good show.
I agree with you. This episode felt very full. It felt like a full episode, and not like one of those full episodes where so much stuff is happening, everything's all over the place, it's chaotic. It didn't feel like a chaotic episode. It felt like an episode where things were being told. Characters were going through things in the midst of other things, and it felt very fleshed out. At first I wasn't sure if I was going to like the structure that they had, where it was like we saw Macy in the beginning and then we see a flash to the end of that situation. He's coming out crying, and I'm like, is this whole episode going to be weird flashbacks? And I wasn't sure if I was going to like that structure, but it really played out well because it was interwoven throughout the present plot line, and I thought that was really well done. I really like this episode. It's definitely up there with my top fave. I would probably say this is probably, it would have been my fave if we had got a little bit more Macy in there. I would have been like, this is my favorite episode ever. But definitely minus the ship stuff, minus, not getting all the kind of ship stuff that I wanted. It definitely, in terms of plot and stuff, is one of my favorite episodes thus far. I can definitely say that. Melania is saying, this episode brought back painful memories of a job I had years earlier. Oh, Macy, I just wanted to hug her. Definitely. We're going to talk about the microaggressions and the things that women of color have to deal with. It's going to get real, guys. So we got to talk about that. Jayla pointed out that Abigail has killed 2 witches, Layla's aunt, via lynching. I think, yes, Abigail has done some wrong. But I mean, if you think about who's taken lives and things like that, just to play devil's advocate a little bit, not that I always love playing devil's advocate, but witches have vanquished plenty of demons. And yes, some demons have done stuff in the eyes of witches as being bad, but they've been killed too. One would argue that it's a war, or it was a war at a time. So like any war, people kill the other side. Not that war is great in any way, but I'm not saying that I agree with the Layla, her killing Layla's aunt, but I'm saying, can you really completely condemn a character for that alone, given that witches have vanquished demons before themselves in the idea of war and things? So, it can be a slippery slope to fall down on who gets to be condemned and who can't be redeemed because they took a life. Mm-hmm. In the magic world. I don't mean that in the real world, but in the magic world. Damien saying, say I give Abby the benefit of the doubt. I think the only person that can help Abby is Jordan. Harry didn't even say a word to her. The sister's given up on her. We'll talk about that because I think it was very interesting, the Mel situation with Abby, for a layered of reasons. Yes. They definitely gave them conflict, which is telling that they gave the 2 of them conflict. So we'll get into that. So there was a lot going on. Blue Wolf is saying Abigail is the way she is because she's never been loved and she's never loved anybody. Mm-hmm. And, maybe the people she cared for didn't care for her back, and like Stephanie is saying, sometimes one person's terrorist is another person's hero. And that's what we were saying about vanquishing and who does what in the sense of war and things like that. And I'm sure the United States doesn't look that great to some people, right? And other people think it's patriotic, some of the wars we've had. So it can be a slippery slope if we do that. Taryn, thanks for joining us in the chat, Tyrion is saying, I wanted a little bit more Hasty too. I love that they were mentioning each other, definitely Harry and checking in with Macy, but we didn't get as much, but we probably won't get much until this whole allergy thing is done. Yeah, so okay. So let's go into, so I think you and me, Ma, overall, we both liked the episode. This was probably one of my favorite episodes. I felt like it was the most fleshed out. I thought it was the best written one I've seen in a while in terms of everything seemed like it was taken into consideration. And just even the casting and the little things that happened throughout that we'll talk about was really on point. And I think handled with a good amount of care, especially when you deal with a topic that was at the heart of this episode with this. So, okay, so the episode opens up and we get, Macy being at the Shia group, which is the overarching thing of Julian's thing that she has inherited and part of Safe Space and things like that. And so basically she thinks she's in there to give some help and things. And we get a flash to it doesn't go so well. So we have kind of three storylines that happen this episode. The Macy situation, the situation in Okinawa, the drama with there that kind of connects to the bigger one. And then we have the Abby and Jordan subplot line, or the Abby plot line, because a few of them come into her plot line. So let's kind of take on these three in terms of this. So let's start with Macy, Ma. So she goes to a place and she meets a very cool person, Ariel Asante, who seems very cool. She has the STEMinist shirt talking about getting young women and women in general to go into stem cell research, which is actually a very real world push in our world, or trying to get more women into stem cell research and forensics and things like that. And so, we think it's going to go great, but we find out that Macy dealt with a lot of microaggressions. Basically, this woman, I don't even know. I think I might have blanked out on writing down her actual name, the woman who was the Karen in this situation. And so basically what happens is she gets there. Macy thinks that she's there to give input because, they're taking a liking and things like that. And then basically what happens is this Karen, for lack of a better word, is kind of, touches her hair. Ariel even notices. She touches her hair. She's like, did she just touch your hair? And she's like, did she just? And she's like, yeah, she just touched my hair. Basically trying to get her to wear leopard print. Not that there's anything wrong with cheetah or leopard print. I love it.
The way it was dressed.
It wasn't even just the way. To me, it wasn't even just the way that it was dressed. It was the fact that they were trying to overly sexualize Macy, and also associate with her the leopard woman, the leopard African lady woman. Not that we look great in these prints. That's no doubt. Macy looked darn good in it, right?
Yeah, but she felt uncomfortable in there. I don't blame her on that one.
And it was kind of stereotypical the way she was trying to dress Macy. It was kind of like be this sexually pretty-ish, black-ish woman to be the face of the malaria campaign that we are only going to associate with dark-skinned African people, even though malaria affects people across the globe.
Yeah, she was
it was one of those moments where, as a black woman, you're kind of used as the token in a situation. They pimp you out. They show you out. Look, we're diverse. We're about it. And look at this. We're doing good things, guys. Look at our black one here. Or our black, but she's black, but she's not that black. So she's not going to be that, aggressive towards you. You don't have to worry. She's one of the good ones. This really crappy stereotypes, right?
It was.
And Macy pushes back against it, and she basically saying, I'm not comfortable with this. I thought it was great that they made the choice that she didn't take the pictures and then feel bad. She really confronted her in that moment. What did you think about the way things played out?
I like the way she stood up to the woman. And then, especially when she tried to explain to her, about the malaria, where it's not just in Africa. She really wasn't trying to listen to her on that.
No.
trying to tell her, we did the research, and
she's basically saying that's not why you're here. You're here to be the face. You're here to be our token. We don't want your brains. We want your existence so that we can profit from it.
I mean, I understand that either. You asked me to come here, and you didn't give her a name. You didn't say doctor because she is a doctor. I mean, isn't that what she earned her degree in? And they didn't ask her anything what she wanted to dress in. They just put it there. Say you would do what I said. When she said that, I just looked at it too, like, I would punch her. I mean, I would forget, where I'm at. But she just came out wrong towards Macy.
Yeah, it was a lot of aggression, and it was a lot of it was that minor aggression. That's kind of sometimes the most insidious kind of aggression, right? It's not out and out calling you the N-word. It's not out and out, being like you are because she was giving her backwards compliments too throughout you can put on a paper bag, you'd still feel good. You still look good. Oh, you look great and everything. Look at this hair, look at the skin. And it's this kind of microaggression of, oh, you're pretty for what you are, kind of a deal. And we want you for this, but that's all we need you for because you're not the total package. And this kind of thing of a power play, a power dynamic of making Macy feel like she, can only give so much in terms of her expertise. But Macy's the one who was the doctor in this situation too. It was very, I want to know what y'all think in the chat and also in the replay. I think as someone who has been in spaces at times that are where sometimes you go into a space and I'm looking for the other Black girl in the room because I'm like, am I the only one here? Am I the only one here? Where else am I? Where else am I? And being in spaces that have been at times predominantly white and dealing in those situations that have been microaggressions, where you think someone is being nice, but when it's not nice, when it's laced in ice, when it's really just, let me size you up. Are you going to be the best the best Black friend in this situation? Because it's cool that you're doing your thing, but you understand I'm the main character in this story. I've dealt with that in business, and I've dealt with that in friendships sometimes, where it's like that, those little microaggressions of you're the secondary person in this story because the default is the white person is the main character in the story of life, comes through. And so it was interesting that they had Macy deal with that, and I like that they made it so that Macy, because sometimes, well, I think it's very obvious Macy's a Black woman, but she is lighter skinned and things like that. And I think it's very good that at times in dealing with the non-magical thing of pointing out that she can deal with microaggressions like this, because that can get lost, that she can deal with microaggressions. That just because she's a magical witch doesn't mean she's like not of the real world and doesn't have to deal with a situation like that. And then the question is, who does she report this woman to, right? She was the one that gets escorted out by, even though she was the one who was being offended.
Yeah, but I didn't get the part when she said, "Oh, you being aggressive towards me." Oh, let me tell and she was like, "I said, is this woman serious?" Even she said it.
But we know what that is, right? It's the idea of the aggressive Black woman.
Yes,
oh my gosh, you raised your voice at me? Oh, you're about to attack me. Please, someone help, please help the delegate.
She should have just hit her then.
Well, then she would have had charges against her.
I know. But when she did that, I said, is she for real?
But we've all, not we've all, but you've been in situations like that, right? Where you have a little bit of a disagreement with someone and suddenly they're like telling you to calm down. It's like, wait a minute, I'm not upset. I'm just
like, you are the person.
Like, yeah, it's the angry Black woman stereotype. First of all, especially in this country, never be mad if you are a Black woman for being angry. Okay, you have every right to be angry in this society at times.
Yes,
okay, and at times we don't need to like throw away the angry Black woman thing because hey, there's things to be angry about. With that said, though, that doesn't mean every time we have a disagreement that we are being aggressive because if we know the history of this. Yeah. I mean, if we know the history of this as someone who has, studied history, because, y'all, one of the things I do, I am a journalist. That's, my job and things like that of knowing history is that when Black women were first brought over to this country, this place, there were two dichotomies, right? We were either overly sexualized so that we had no delicacy. We weren't put on pedestals as being needing to be protected. And we also had to deal with being seen as less feminine, and that the ideal of femininity was, for the default was white women being the ideal of femininity. So if you have a Black woman, she's not the ideal of femininity. This question, and we've seen it, right? When Michelle Obama, one of the insults they try to throw at her is that she doesn't look feminine and things like that, which is a lie, right? It's Serena Williams. They do the same thing to her. This idea of attacking our femininity, attacking who we are, attacking our right to be who we are, right? And so I think there's very layers to that. And I think I think they did a very good job of handling this as best they could, right? Because I mean, the writer's room is pretty good, but it's the showrunners are white. So, I think they did what they could in addressing how wrong this Lori character was, but also pointing out and handling it. There's not, they didn't have Harry come in and say, well, this is how I'm going to save the day. They didn't have any white saviors. It was just like, this is how it is. We deal with microaggressions. We deal with something you can't necessarily run and tell to the cops or anything like that. It's an everyday situation that kind of comes up to you, and you just have to, you maneuver it. It's hard sometimes to not feel the resentment of it, but you maneuver it. I, as someone who is in the public eye or growing, being in the public eye and stuff like that, I've dealt with situations of being grouped in with other white women, hosts and things like that. And at times, in terms of, I get called on when people want to talk about stuff for Black History Month, right? Suddenly it's like, oh yeah, it's Black History Month. Let's have this person on. Let's have her on the panel to talk about Black people in TV, Black people in this. And it's like, well, I can talk about this stuff all through. I got a degree in all this, you know what I mean? Like, I can talk about this more than just when you want to bring Black people on the panel, right?
Every day.
And then the other thing is my white women colleagues, they get called on these stuff regularly as though it's like, because it's this unheard of, unaddressed bias that they are the default. But when you want to talk about Black stuff, let's bring this person in. And it's like, not to toot my horn, but I know my shit. You know what I mean? You raised me to know my stuff, and I'm confident in that. But I have to push back against things like that constantly. So watching this of Macy dealing with it was definitely, I'm not going to say it was triggering for me, but I totally understood this plot line. And I was like, yep, this I think every woman of color, particularly Black women, are going to identify with this moment in here. And,
I'm kind of shocked that the other Black woman didn't just like crying. I know it's her job. That was
she didn't want to lose. That's the other dichotomy, right?
Yeah, I understood that, but man, at that moment, I said I should have been that Black. So I'm gonna lose my job now.
But this is the thing, Ma. Like, can you though? Can you afford that? And then what happens? You get labeled as difficult. Right. And then suddenly you can't get hired nowhere else, because who are they going to believe? Oh, she just got so angry. I just had one criticism and she was just flipping off. And then suddenly no other place wants to hire you. And you've crashed your career for this one moment. And it's interesting because, the last episode, they had this situation where Macy was talking about playing the game, right? At times. But in this situation, she didn't want to play the game. She didn't want to be their token, and she spoke out against it. She had to pick and choose when she was going to play the game. And in this case, she didn't want to, So it was, and let us know in the chat, what y'all are thinking in the replay. And I just want to preface this. I don't think I should have to necessarily, but I do not group. It's not all types of people or whatever, not all white women or all white and things like that. It's just, there's a system in place that has embedded the idea of white supremacy at times and ideals that when a person of color, a Black person, in particular, a Black woman in particular, that we deal with microaggressions. That's reality. That's our reality,
Yes, reality.
Liliana said, I was confused why Macy didn't just fire her if Macy is supposed to be the new CEO. Yeah,
I don't understand it either.
I think someone else actually explained it here too. Stephanie actually points out Macy only runs Safe Space, a building that the Shia groups own, not the CEO. And even if she was only the board could fire Lori. Yeah. Jay Lee is saying, I deal with that at work with people who will say I was rude with them after they cut me off several times and cussed me completely out. Right? It's like, and suddenly you say one thing and it's like, oh my gosh, calm down. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm calm. You know what I mean? And working in kind of the environments I've started to work in, a lot of time I have learned to not be as blunt in my emails where I have to kind of professionally cuss people out, but I've learned the ways of doing it because you play that game and it's like, okay, you're going to be rude. You're going to be condescending. I'm going to do this in a way where you can't call me the angry person here, but I'm still going to tell you about yourself. Yeah. I mean, you learn to adapt, but the issue is you shouldn't have to necessarily. So there's that. But it was a very poignant thing. Stephanie says the issue is systemic. So Ariel couldn't have done anything. So I'm not side-eyeing her. And she did try to be on Macy's side. She came to her, gave her stuff, basically pointed out. She actually was the one to tell Macy that since Julian had passed away, that was another plot development, the stocks had gone down. And so they were looking to cut stuff and they were putting Safe Space on the chopping block, which is interesting, I think, because Safe Space was one of the final things that Julian bought. It's actually one of the newer things. He had just bought Safe Space like a couple months ago, and now was on the chopping block. And it was like, well, didn't he just acquire Safe Space? He had just bought Safe Space. So why that one? Why not something else? Although we know one of the reasons why he bought Safe Space at the time is because they had thought there was they thought the magical entity was down there. So it wasn't for any kind of real reason in that. Damien is saying Madeline was amazing in this episode. She deserves an Oscar. Taryn is saying, yes, I've dealt with this many times. There's a lot there. And I felt like, do y'all think that they handled this topic well enough? We all know there's people of color in the front of the camera, but I felt like given that the show is written and run by people who aren't all, African American or Black, I thought they did a decent job. They didn't try to give an answer to it. They just basically said, this is the reality. So I appreciated that because we didn't need to be told this is what you should have done. It's just what is, I did feel like it did come. I'm not going to say it came out of nowhere. It was interesting human plot line for Macy this episode, right? Because it wasn't really connected to much of anything. What do you think, Ma? Do you think it was connected to a bigger thing, or was it just one of, Macy having her own kind of plot line? Or do you think, I don't know. I'm not going to say, do you think it came out of nowhere?
No, well, I understand about the group, but then if She Group owned the Safe Space and whatever, and Julian was there, but sure, I'm trying to think. Sure, She Group could be something else more too.
Yeah, maybe Shia Group is, who's on this board? Who's on this mysterious board? Especially since Julian and his Aunt Viv were the ones trying, was all the board okay? Or did the board not know about these things they were trying to do and this entity and this technology that they were trying to get?
Space? Come on now.
Yeah.
Somebody knows something's down there.
Yeah, exactly. It's who's this board that, Julian can't just do everything he wants anytime he wants, right? So the question is, if he explains that, Safe Space, did the board not know stuff? Jaylee is saying, I thought they could have gone deeper. They could have linked this with Mel's plot with the dean too. That's as well, Mel being a woman of color as well, having to kind of tiptoe or not around a situation. What could she have dealt with or just a larger thing? So yeah, that makes sense. Stephanie is saying she did piss off the board in the previous episode with the legal clinic. So this seemed like retaliation. Yeah. Although they did say in the beginning that the board liked her maneuver about the clinic and that she was making waves. But I guess maybe you could say that it was kind of that microaggression.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You want to be the poster child of the poor and the hungry? Well, do a campaign about Africa.
Yeah.
Kind of a deal. I can see that. O'Dane is saying, I think Macy can turn safe space into a place for witches and magical creatures who need protection can give back to the community. Honestly, I mean, we will be real about this. I feel like they just need to find a spell and just be like, yo, we generating money. Like, there's got to be a money spell or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so they
I mean, there ain't no elders anymore. It's not like they have to play by the rules on that. I'm not saying they need to make themselves millionaires. They shouldn't do that. But if safe space is bleeding money supposedly, or they need to somehow generate something, I don't know, maybe flub do a glamour spell on the stocks or something. Ray is saying,
let Abigail take that part. Abigail says, oh, y'all want to be rich? Okay.
Yeah, here's more money. Ray is saying,
do it.
Macy needs to focus on her business before it fails. But the question is, what's the business necessarily? Safe space has always been a safe space for organic things and things like that. Julian knew that when he bought it. The issue was that when he bought it, he made it more of a capitalist endeavor, unfortunately. The question is, who owned safe space before this? How did they own safe space? I mean, of course, these are probably...
You never saw people who own that.
Yeah, so all of us, I mean... Let's be honest, this is kind of a plot line that was been whipped up by the showrunners for drama, sure. But it's like, let's not act like safe space didn't exist before Julian bought it like 7 months ago. So it's like, you know what I mean? Taryn is saying, I feel it was because she was asking for the promo bono and she put everything on social media and cheated the system, skipping over the board. Yeah, I wouldn't call it cheated the system. I think she pushed she twisted the board's arm, basically.
And they didn't like that.
They didn't like that. But let's not act like, capitalist business people don't do what they have to do to get what they want.
They probably said, damn, she beat it to it. Yes, she just did something that you didn't
probably would have done too, right?
You would have did it.
Oh, Dana saying, Lo, I want that spell, that money spell, right? I mean, they witches. No witch should be poor if you got money spells. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Damien saying, I love Ariel. I hope we see her again. I hope so. I hope so too. I really like that. And like someone else had mentioned in the chat, I kind of hope eventually Ariel takes over for Lori, that they are able to get Lori out and Ariel is able to take over. That would be good. Jaylee is saying, speaking of the elders, who is taking care of the magical community? Safe space can become a hub for the magical community in the future. I think that's what we were talking about in the last stream as well, as in who is doing it, because there's the question, I believe it was Ray in the chat who was talking about bringing back the elders. And some of us were saying that, maybe not necessarily the elders, but there does need to be some kind of structure in place. Or does there need to be a structure in place? That was the other question. Like, do you need a democracy kind of government for the magical world necessarily? Because the magical world is part of the real world. These are just enhanced people with powers, So there's that question as well. But that is a question, and the question is whether or not they're really going to get in on that.
Well, and like that, it could go. They could have like from each magical community. It could be one person from each, so they all can understand where everybody is coming from.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that as well. And I just want to take a moment to let you all know that if you haven't given this video a like, please do so, because that engagement helps other people join in with us on different live streams and also to watch the replay, which is always appreciated. So be sure to like the video if you haven't already. And also, if you haven't already, to subscribe, you should be subscribing, because we love talking about stories here and diving and slicing into storytelling. And if you have a particular question that you want us to dive a bit more into, or you want to just show some love with a super chat, please feel free to do so. We do love super chats, and they, help out the channel with equipment and things like that, and things and whatnot. So it's always appreciated, y'all. So Ray is saying, absolutely, no one is taking magical community outside of when they are in the basement looking at the magical map. Yeah, no one's taking care of it. Ray is saying, Macy made this bed with that free clinic and put herself on the board's radar. But this is the thing, Ray. It's one free clinic in a whole building.
Yes.
Like, y'all, you act like she decided to just run a charity and nothing's gonna be anything, y'all. Like, I mean, she does one good thing and suddenly she not. I don't think you're saying she deserved it, but it's more so that shouldn't be such a thing where the board is like, let's retaliate against this one little building when we have a multi-millionaire corporation we need to be trying to figure out.
No, they saw the word free, and that's not too happy with them. It's free.
Yeah.
Liliana, money don't want nothing free.
Yeah. Liliana is saying, I think they hinted at the problems from the lack of leadership with the two fighting covens from the forest in a way. Yeah. And we'll talk about that in a second. Blue Wolf is saying, I don't think that the charm one should be in charge of the magical community, but I do believe that the magical community can come to them for advice on magical situations. And Stephanie saying, also, there is no excuse for racism. Very, very much agreed. Stephanie. So that situation with Macy was very much real world. It didn't seem to be connected with the magical thing, but it did set up the question of how safe space is being considered on the chopping block by the corporation to sell it. But then the question is that, like I said, I think they just need to do a spell, get enough money and buy it off of the corporation, just let them run it themselves, right? It's like,
but how can you sell something that somebody inherited?
Well, she was put in charge of it because he gave it to her, right? But I think if the board decides that they don't want it anymore, I'm not really sure how that works. I guess if they decide they don't want it anymore.
If they don't want it anymore, I mean.
Yeah. The question is, does she really have to adhere to them? Or can she just be like, well, this is my space. If y'all want to take me out of Shia group, that's fine. I'll just run safe space on my own as its own brick and mortar place and not be part of some bigger global kind of group. So there's that too. My thought process is this is probably going to turn into eventually Macy maybe end up owning that whole company, especially if we find out that board is on some shady stuff. That would be the easiest way to clean up this plot line.
If they could be, you never know what they could be.
Yeah.
That will be a good one this year.
Yeah. Damie is saying, I don't think it was retaliation. It was racism and misogyny. Ray is saying, Macy made enemies with the board and caused this. It's called retaliation. Jaylee is saying, it is free, but she found a way to fund it without changing their budget. Donated hours and charging shops for drinks. So it's not like she's asking for more money. Exactly.
But they still don't want it. It's free.
Well, they probably weren't. That board probably wasn't okay with Julian buying it in the first place. So this is probably some business thing where they're like, we didn't want this thing in the first place. He bought it because he felt like buying it. The stocks are dropping now. Let's just get rid of this thing we didn't want him to buy in the first place. And throw in the racism and the misogyny by Lori, pretty much. Yeah, so I thought it was a good plot line. I don't really know what they're going to connect it to in the bigger plot of the whole scheme of things, and particularly for Macy. But it did open up the idea that, yes, they are having money issues and they have to deal with that. So that's what we did get from that situation, which, okay. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing, the Okinawa drama. So Harry and Mel are doing some spells to try to figure out about the fact that they had just came from the prison world, and Mel actually wanted to go back to the prison world, but he was like, that's not a place that you can stay in for too long. Clearly not. And so she does a spell to try to figure out, like, get some kind of inkling of where, and that's where Okinawa comes into. I think I'm saying that wrong. I think Okinawa is actually a real place, but this was set in a different kind of way, right? It was Okinawa, British Columbia. So they go there, and that they're looking for the spot where maybe they don't know if it's the other tablet at this point, but they're like, something tells them that there's something there. Mm-hmm. And Harry explains it to Mel as being a place of very ancient traditions, and that it basically has, a lot of magic there. And so they go there and they kind of get diverted because they see a young woman basically get hurt. They go there, they're trying, they go help her. This young woman, basically what we find out, lies and tells them it was demons. She doesn't tell the truth. And I'm going to be honest with you. When she first said what she said and the way she said it, I was like, she's suspect.
But
she hesitated, right? I was like, there's something off about this.
Yeah. And she said when they told her she was the charm, where the charm was, and then I said, Lord,
yeah. And so I think with that situation, it was interesting because they took her back. They have a poison dart that they can't seem to fix or anything like that. But it wasn't really a demon type of thing. It was just ended up being some poisonous type darts or whatever.
Yeah, but I was thinking when he couldn't heal, I said, well, she might be a demon, because I don't think Harry can heal demons. He can heal the humans, the humans, but he couldn't heal a demon. So I thought.
I think he can heal anybody. He's a white. I think he can heal anyone he chooses to heal.
I don't think he can heal a demon all the way.
Mm-hmm.
But they could have changed that too.
Yeah. You might be right about that, but either way, he couldn't heal whatever that wound was because it was some type of thing. So there's a whole drama because they think it's a demon because that's what the woman tells them. And then, Macy's already in her mood because of what had happened at the thing. So she's like, we need to vanquish. She automatically thinks it's Abby because she's like a demon. Isn't Abby leader of the demon world again? Why is she doing this? And let's vanquish her. And she actually said something very interesting to Mel, which is like, you are always trying to appease Abby. And it was as though it was kind of already understood in the group of them that Mel is the one that's always defending Abby. And I thought that was very telling, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. And so there's a whole thing. We eventually find out that wasn't the case at all. And that there was basically a split off with the coven. Some people moved to the city. The other one stayed there, and it wasn't a nice split. And basically they were beefing, and the girl wanted to spread her mother's ashes and she couldn't. And that's how she got poisoned. And so she told a lie that basically made them jump at the conclusion of it being demons. And she caused a lot of crap, eventually it got worked out though. So that was pretty good. And at first I was like, man, this is kind of a one-off kind of story, but I was glad in the end that it did connect to the bigger story and that they went to the ancient cave, as it was called, the cave of the ancients. And that's where they found the other tablet. And now the tablets are together. And so I guess they'll be able to, if they can decipher those things, they have a full story. So it was a big step to the overarching plot, which I thought was really good. At first I was like, man, this seems like a one-off kind of thing, but I think it kind of, you okay, Mom?
Yeah. I
think it connected to the overarching theme though of bias, right? This idea of her saying demon and them automatically wanting to go to war, and how the charmed ones have their own bias against demons, some justified, some not so justified. And then finding out that maybe there's an easier way of compromise, but then finding the tablets. I didn't mind the storyline. I thought it was kind of, it was a little predictable because I figured the girl was lying. I was like, she's lying. It's not a demon. Like, we didn't even see the demon. What's going on here? You know what I mean? So
I figured they would be able to detect the demon or whatever, Yeah.
Yeah.
Because did you do that and not come back to finish it?
Yeah. So did you like this plot line, or what did you think of it?
Which plot line? The one with
the witches beefing and the split off coven. Did you think it was a distraction, or you think it worked for the overall plot of them eventually finding the tablets?
I think that, the set thing you just said. No, I think they just put that there so they could be able to find the because she talked about the ancient ones and everything. Yeah. And then that's when Harry and them start thinking, well, about the caves. And when she said caves, that's when Mel asked, could you take us there? And I think that's what was thrown in with them two feuding, and they had to come and take, Yeah. Mel said, isn't there a way that y'all can work this out?
Yeah.
And then when she explained about her mother dying and how she died, and her mother wanted to, that's when the other one decided that, worth it.
No, I agree with you. I think it definitely played into the larger plot, which I was glad it did, because I was like, man, if this is a bottled moment and it doesn't connect to anything, I mean, I don't mind the drama, but it was kind of pointless. Like, they were beefing and I was like, okay. So I was glad it actually led to a cave and they actually got the tab. I'm like, okay, now at least we got some space into the bigger plot. Because the bigger plot's going, that's usually structure, right? The bigger plot's going on in the background until it becomes to the foreground. So that's fine.
But wait, there was one part in there when they thought the girl was a demon. And when they tried to touch it, they realized that's when she said, I'm a witch. Remember?
Yeah.
When they, she said, I'm a witch.
Yeah. Still doesn't necessarily explain why he couldn't heal her, though, because the other girl wasn't a demon. But they eventually did fix her.
Because Mel she made a concoction and then gave it to her, and then she was feeling a little better.
Yeah.
But Mel did get on her about lying about demons.
Yes. And you're right. And you're also right, as the chat is pointing out, about the fact that white lighters can't heal demons. Blue was saying Mama is right. White lighters can't heal demons. Jayla also points out that OG charmed. Leo couldn't heal demons, and I feel like I remember Harry not being able to heal Parker, but I may be misremembering.
Yeah, he couldn't heal. In the old one, he couldn't heal. He could only heal. What's his name? Cole's human side, not the demon side.
Yeah.
When Cole got hurt, he could only heal the human side, not the demon side.
So I guess you're right. You got it. Yeah. I think you watched the OG charm longer than I did. I left when they killed off Shannon Doherty's character. So you probably know more than I do about that. So yeah. So that is right. Yeah. And so I thought that was good. I'm glad it did connect to the other thing. And like others are pointing out, Liliana is saying, I liked how we got to see Mel use her powers in newer ways. Her new powers have grown on me to the point where I'm okay if she doesn't get her time powers back. I like the new powers, but I do want the time travel back. I just think it's cool that she can freeze people, and they took that away. It's like, what? She was the best kind of power. Right?
They'll say, you coming to my house?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second with Abby. But yeah, it was a good enough plot. Not much happened in it except the drama, because it was kind of happening in the background while the bigger plots of Macy's situation and Abby's situation were going on. And so speaking of Abby's,
came that all together.
Yeah, it all kind of converged together, which, like I said, I like the way this episode was structured. So we get to Abby's situation, everyone's favorite character, Abby. And basically what happens is, I did get a little mad because she did inadvertently mess up my Jordan Maggie moment, because we were getting some Jordy Maggie moment there finally, with Maggie's thing of focusing on an overachieving solo child, which I kind of feel like she did that because she figured she could work with Jordan. I'm just saying, but that was a cute moment with them, and we'll talk about that in shit moments. But and so he doesn't know what it is. It leads back up to Abby, and Abby basically says, I think my sister put a curse on this totem, and that's why it's starting. That's why this totem is trying to kill me. Fast forward, she's, trying to threaten Jordan. He says, you almost burnt my fro and all. It was a cute moment, but it was also kind of like she was, trying to get at him and stuff like that. And so basically, eventually, they do a mind meld, her and Jordan, because Jordan, decides why not.
He was telling the truth.
And he was telling the truth. I don't think Abby thought he was lying. I think Abby, and I thought it was going to happen too, that maybe the sister did something and did a spell on Jordan so he couldn't remember what she did to it. So I thought maybe that was going to be the revelation, but it turned out that he remembered it and that the sister didn't do anything. And it was actually, like Jordan said, your two halves are fighting for your soul right now, basically. Your demon half and your witch half, and one side is trying to kill you. And it was kind of layered to it, because what we got in the midst of that was Mel coming in and, her already getting pissed off and doing what Mel does, rushes into a situation, says things, and we're going to talk about this in shit talk. She says things that are really harsh, that aren't as justified. You're not redeemable. And she just leaves. And it's like, yo, you were wrong this time, Mel. You were actually wrong this time. Abby kept her word, you know, and she really hurt. She clearly hurt Abby's feeling kind of unnecessarily, which was kind of crazy. But then Jordan, being the great guy that he is, he says, "Nah, I'm good," because I think Jordan that whole time knew that Abby wasn't going to really hurt him. He was just kind of like, "You need to calm down," you know, things like that. I think because Jordan's a good person of reading people, I think he knew Abby wasn't going to hurt him. And I think Abby pretty much felt that one way too. But she's a petulant child sometimes, where it's like, I want what I want. And you just kind of like, okay, whatever. And so they do the mind meld. And so what we see is that Abby is going through an internal struggle. And we get the question of redemption. And Jordan says to her, you know, redemption has to be earned. It's through works, you know, you can't just demand it. You either go for it or not. I really like this plot line. I think we saw Abby's vulnerability. I think we saw, I know some people aren't the biggest fan of Abby, but I actually didn't think it was like I thought it connected well enough to the other characters. You know, they brought Jordan into it. Mel showed up. Harry had nothing to say to her, but we all know why Harry has nothing to say to her, because he messed around with her, and now he's like, well, I'm with Macy. I can't say nothing to you. I'm just gonna go. Like, I got nothing to say. I knew he was gonna do that. There ain't nothing he could say to her. But he was like, oh, okay, Jordan, you ready? Like, all right, bye. Like, I'm getting out of here because this is an X. Yeah, that was fine. And so I like that moment. I think we saw her vulnerability. And I don't know, I feel like if they go through this, I kind of hope that she does choose the path of redemption. And I don't think she has to be all light and love to be redeemed. I think she just has to be like,
be herself
and be like, hey, you know, maybe I don't want to be the overlord who's like Jordan says, puts my enemies on a spike and things like that. But, you know, at the same time, I don't need to be spreading rainbows and butterflies either. You know, and I think that's fine, because I am someone who wants Abby to stay around, because I think she's one of the more interesting characters on the show. If they find a space for her to be, I mean, she's their connection to the demon world. That's one thing that she's actually very useful at. She's not a character that's there uselessly. You know, as much as some people dislike her, she's not useless as a character. She's not like, why is she there? It's like she actually has a role to play, as we saw with the whole demon thing. So I liked it. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what Abigail actually chooses. And I don't know, I like her and Jordan as friends to a certain degree. I like Jordan with everyone usually, but I actually like their kind of dynamic. They kind of come off as siblings to me in their own way, where he's like, yo, I knew you weren't gonna, like, don't touch my hair. I won't touch your hair, kind of a deal. So I kind of like that dynamic between the two of them. I thought that was pretty interesting. What do y'all think of the storyline? Do y'all, I mean, I guess this goes back to the question. I think the chat is a little divided on whether or not Abigail, you know, can be redeemed, but I think she can. So yeah, Taryn, Mel actually learned how to make icicles, which was very cool that she's about to stab Abby with. And that was funny. And I want to talk about that in Ship Talk. That, you know, they were about to fight, they were fighting each other, and it was a whole thing. And like Jordan was like, ladies, I think we could work that. They're like, shut up. And it was kind of played for laughs in a way. Like, you knew in a way Mel wasn't really going to kill Abby, and Abby wasn't really going to kill Mel. It was a very interesting moment, I think. So yes, it was a cute moment with Maggie and Jordan. And I wanted more of that. I'm just glad she wasn't. I was afraid, but then I remember that Antonio is actually not an only child. I was afraid she was going to have to go to Antonio, and I was like, oh no. Yeah, Damien saying, I love my Jordy's fro. How dare Abby want to burn my guy's fro? I thought that was funny. He's like, you almost burned my fro. Liliana is saying, yeah, I haven't been a fan of how harsh Mel's comments have been, considering Abigail's story deals with self-harm. Exactly. She doesn't seem, it's a little blunt. Funny enough, even though she's the one out of all of them that does eventually go to Abby to help, she is still kind of very mean with her wording. Because yes, Abigail is kind of dealing with a magical version of self-harm. Like even Jordan says, like, she was like, so I'm the one trying to kill myself, like on the low, and it's that's kind of deep, so I think there needs to be a little bit more understanding there. Blue Wolf is saying maybe Abigail should strip her witch side and her demon side until she makes a choice of who she is. I see that point, Blue Wolf. I just don't see her doing that. This is Abigail. You think she's going to give up power?
No, she's not going to give up the power.
I don't see that happening. Mercenary X84, thanks for joining us in the chat. Mercenary, Mercenary is saying every time the charmed ones need something, they always go to Abby. That's a very true thing. Abigail is one of the people they go to. She is one of their resources. I've always gotten on how I feel like the charmed ones don't use their resources as much as they should sometimes, but she is definitely one of their resources. And so she's not useless. It's the question of how do they want her to consistently play? And I did like how they pointed out, Jordan says, redemption isn't having friends and stuff isn't being manipulative and things like that. But of course, Abigail's a demon, part demon. She's leaned into that. So she has a warped sense of what a friendship looks like. And maybe she does think it's manipulation and weird flirtation and trying to get your way because she hasn't had healthy relationships before, So I think that's also a point with that as well. Liliana is saying, I'm holding for her accountable on her bad actions, but I think Mel's comments were not helpful towards someone who has stated she is trying to harm herself. Taryn saying it was like fire and ice, Mel and Abby, which is very telling. I'm just going to say, but we'll get to that in shit talk. Ray is saying, poor Abby, we got to be 3 times as good for half the credit. She is our people. In terms of demon or being half demon. Damien is saying Jordan's the only one that can help Abby. I think to a certain degree. I think he's the only one that gets it because he went to war. You know what I mean? Like he went to war, so he got it. He was like, I had to deal with a lot of my inner demon. And like we were talking about, right? He went to Afghanistan, right? The Middle East and whatnot. And as a soldier,
certain things that you don't want,
and people die, and yes, it's in the name of war, but there is a having to contend with the fact that you took lives. And you saw things that, regular civilians didn't. Not saying, Abby did make the choice of it, but in a way you have to think of it, Abby too was born torn between 2 worlds of witch and demon. Her parents literally separated because one was a demon, one was a witch. And her mom hated the demon side of Abby. There's a lot there that didn't, one could argue like we were talking about in the last live stream that Abigail is what Macy could have ended up being had she not had the support that she had. You can think of it that way in a way, right? Like had she found out that she was part demon and her family kind of cast her out and feeling like she kind of had to constantly choose, one could argue maybe Macy could have turned out similar in the way of relationships, in the way of how she deals with people, although I still contend that they gave Abby some parts of Macy's plot line and then erased it for Macy for better or worse. But Stephanie's saying, I really don't want for Abby's storyline to be about choosing a side. She's half witch, half demon, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I agree with you, Stephanie. This is what I was saying about Macy. I cannot stand the fact that they had Macy give up her demon powers. I just did not understand that. I know the showrunners have been said they just wanted to wrap it up, and I'm like, but that's not really, what do you like, is that the choice you have? Like if you're a mixed magical being that you just need to pick, like, what does that say for unions between different magical beings that they honestly are just putting their child through something that their child just eventually has to kind of pick a side? I don't think it's the best messaging. It just seems kind of weird that they're really pushing that with this idea of warring and all this stuff. They did it
combined.
Yeah, they did it with Macy, and now they're doing it in a more harsh sense with Abigail. And I'm just like, what is this weird thing of them making people choose between their sides? They are what they are,
Because look, everybody, everybody is good and bad because you got good in you, and sometimes you got the bad part that want to come out. Come on.
Yeah. Mercenary is saying Jordan needs to charge for the free therapy he's giving. I agree too. Jordan always be giving the good kind of talk, but it shows he's someone he's gone through stuff, so he knows how to relate it to others. And I definitely agree that that's definitely something for him. Jaylee is saying Omar's season 1 was more morally gray, and season 2 went back to black and white morality. Hopefully, this storyline will go back to morally gray. Yeah. Jayla's saying Abby for sure took a larger part of Macy's plot line. This honestly could have been Macy's story right now. I agree. That was one of the questions I posed to y'all in the last live stream. Do y'all think that Abby's plot line is a little bit of copy and paste what Macy's plot line could have been? But I think maybe they wanted to go a different direction with Macy.
Yeah.
But I do think it was a missed opportunity. I loved the fact of at the end of season 1 when we saw Macy taking the source and how powerful she got and how corrupted she could be, but also fighting it. And I was like, see, that's the thing that there, because she was the odd person out. She, as Maggie said to her, you were the overachieving only child for years until you found that you had sisters. So you grew up as the overachieving only kid. And I'm like, yes, like there's so much right there for Macy to deal with her power. And I mean, they're leaning more into it on the scale of her real world power, but I do think it was a missed opportunity to have a grayish charmed one who kind of had that dark energy in her and dealing with it. And I do think they missed an opportunity to have that with her. Yeah. Which I don't know why they did that necessarily. Maybe they thought it was too complicated. Maybe they wanted to give Abigail something more to do, and they wanted to keep the Abigail character around. So they figured they give her some of Macy's and then put Macy in something else. But it's a little weird to do that when one of them is your main character and you give it to the side character, you know. Damien is saying, my Jordy for president, agreed. Mercenary saying, every time I think about how Abby's character works, I think back to the bi-magical line that she used. Yes. And how she said it to Mel. Remember it, y'all. She said it to Mel that she was, maybe you made me bi-magical, but that too with her two sides. Yeah. Ray is saying, I feel like Mel is trying to jump on bandwagon with Macy and Maggie. For being fake. She knows she has a connection to Abby. Don't fight it. Yeah. I definitely see that. Damien, I loved Macy as a source. She was so proud. Exactly. I just think they should have done that a little bit more. Jaylee saying Macy became more assertive when she found out about her past with her parents. It would have been interesting if her demon powers were influencing her personality. Exactly. Liliana is saying, it does feel like it undid the progress Macy made in season 1 about herself when they took away her demon side. Yeah, they did it so flippantly, too. It was just like, oh, maybe that's standing in the way of my magic. I'll just give up my demon side. What? Didn't we have a whole plot line about this? I mean, your demon powers were the main thing we had in terms of a power source when they had lost all their powers in the first place. So I was just like, wait a minute, why? What? Like, you just gonna give it up now that they got their powers back? Made no sense to me. Yeah, I didn't get that. Angela, thanks for joining us in the chat. Angela is saying, Abby has probably never been loved or ever had a friend. When you are always being hurt by others just for being who you are, then at least if you have power, no one can hurt you. Yeah, I think there's something with that, you know, and I think there's something to be said for that. Exactly. I agree. Ray is saying Macy turned out worse. She became the source, though, mega level evil in the magical universe. Low, no competition. Look how awesome that could have been, right? Like dealing with that, a charm one who's also kind of on the evil side. You know, there's something to be said for that. So we got that with them. And Zay, thanks for joining us in the chat. Zay is saying Macy being half demon was such an interesting aspect to her character and the charmed lore. When Abby came, I was excited to see someone like her, but they messed it up. I agree. I think they could have both had that storyline to various degrees. 2 half demons, you know, one who was accepted and became half or part demon for necessity to live, and the other one born out of a union. You know, there could have been something there, but instead the writers went with this plot line of romance and that triangle between Harry and all that. That just kind of messed up. And I think they didn't do Abigail's character any favors when they had her go with Harry, because I think that really did. You got a big Hasty fandom, right? And I think when you do the Hasty fandom, which is very influential to, you know, Harry and Macy are like the main couple. And I think when you do that, you know, you're going to get a situation where, you know, and you're going to get a situation where you have that kind of thing. So I don't know. It's, yeah. I don't know. I feel like they should have kept it. And I think they missed something with it. Yes, very much. Team Hasty, always and forever. And Damien is saying, and she was able to control the dark side and use it for good. Then the showrunners decided to remove it just like that. Yeah, I think they just didn't want to do it with both her and Abby. I think that's what the issue was. So, all right, y'all. You know what part we're going to. And I got things to say about this part, y'all. We got to talk about ship talk. Because I think it's going to get a little controversial in the chat, because I got some things to say about Mel and Abigail. But first, let's talk about, with the ship talk, let's talk about, well, we didn't get much Hasty, unfortunately, but we did have Harry, you know, really, you know, we did have Harry really worried about his girl. So there was that. So that was something. And I love that about them. Although I want them to have more conversations too, but I'm glad that Harry was able to kind of sit there and take it in. And even he had questions like, what's misogyny and things like that, you know, and they explained it to him, and he understood that as the white guy in the room, he kind of had to listen and like, okay, that's what's going on, you know, like, all right, we got it. So I love that about them. I love them being supportive. But let's talk the other ships, because we did get something a little bit more significant with the other ships. We got, you know, we got basically with Maggie and Jordan, we got their, you know, little moment, and I loved it. And what did y'all think? You know, first of all, of course, Jordan was thinking about stuff, but what did y'all think about the situation with Jordan when she talked about love, and he said lost, right? Was it lost? He said, I
think he said lost.
He said lost, right?
Yeah. Then he looked at her, and that's when she just, you know.
Yeah. What did you think that was about, Ma? Or do you think it was about them or about like past situations with him in love and loss? It was nice to get his kind of viewpoint on it, though. What do you think that was connected to? Because she also paused too. You know, do you think that, I mean, I thought that was a little moment between them.
Yeah, I thought so too. So when she said love, he said lost, and then he looked at her. You know, I guess he said at that moment we had it, but it got lost some long way, you know.
There's so much angst with them that's so subtle, yet so innocent angst between Jordy and Jordy. Sorry, guys. There's such innocent angst between them, y'all. Isn't there? And I want them to be able to at least hug again.
Well, that probably comes soon. But wait a minute. Didn't we miss something?
What do you mean?
What happened to the monster at the end of the other show? And we didn't get
Okay, someone else brought that up. I meant that's good, Ma. Someone else brought that up in this chat, and I actually meant to say something about it. They totally, I guess they just vanquished it, y'all. That was definitely a cliffhanger that nothing happened to. They just vanquished it. We just have to assume they lived. So I mean,
I said they even come back to that beginning of that story.
I thought it was cute. I think it was just more so, okay, they vanquished it. It was something else that got out.
When it came on, I was waiting for that.
Yeah. Stephanie is saying, I'm out here starving for some Hasty. We agree. I agree. Jaylee is saying, can you imagine all the Hasty cuddling pillow talk we could have gotten if not for the dreaded
came between them.
Yeah. Yeah. Damien is saying it was so about him and Maggie. And I agree. I think it was kind of like they got something and they can't have it. And Maggie also seems scared to go for it too, because she doesn't want to lose Jordan in some way. But it was nice, I think, to finally get that from Jordan's perspective too. And maybe that's why he's giving her all this space, because he's like, maybe I don't want to rush it either, because I'm also afraid if we rush into this, we will also lose it. Or what if I don't lift this curse?
Yeah.
You know?
You have to deal with the curse.
Yeah, exactly. Jayla's saying the lost thing could have been double. He's lost the male members of his family and his situation with Maggie too. That as well, you know. And he also talked about his legacy and how the legacy was to be announced, you know. Melanie actually points this out. Love lost, but legacy TBD. So maybe there's hope for Joggy. I think, you know, I think there's definitely hope for them. I think maybe Maggie may be part of Jordan's legacy. Could you imagine he was a cursed bloodline and then he becomes part of the new bloodline of new charmed ones, you know, because of who they bear out, you know, and add to that Macy and Harry having babies, because that's probably going to happen, of course, and things like that. I think there's definitely something there for that. Ray is saying, so Macy can't judge Abby or Parker with her demonic acts and role as the Omega and magical lord of evil. Yeah. Damie is saying, oh, sorry. Damie, it was so about him and Maggie. I agree. Jaylee is saying this loss, the lost thing could have been double. He's lost the male members of his family. Mercenary is saying maybe the episodes were out of order when the cliffhanger happened. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. That's, although I don't know, because did anyone see the new one for the promo for next week? I actually didn't get to catch that before we went live.
Next week? That's what I was trying. I was looking up at the calendar.
We might be getting another missed one.
I think there's another, because they said the 11th.
Yeah.
April 11th. And I'm like, April 11th?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, is something else coming on in that, you know?
Yeah. Blue Wolf is saying, wouldn't it be something if Jordan's ancestor had murdered one of Abigail's ancestors? Blue Wolf, why are you trying to cause drama? Like, we don't want to do that. But he could have. I mean, wouldn't it be crazy if he did? Wouldn't it be crazy? It would make them all one big, happy, magical, dramatic family, right? With all the different things that they have going on. Damie is saying that loss Jordan said was about, I want you, but sadly I can't have you now. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, we have, you know, April. Okay. So April 4th is the next one.
Is it April 4th? No, the 11th. That's when they said the 11th. I think April.
Oh, okay. So we are, okay, y'all. So we probably won't be doing one for next week.
It's an Easter. I think Easter is the 4th.
Yeah. That's what Jaylee is saying in the chat. Yes, you may magic me. Ask us about our thoughts about Mel and Ruby, which we'll be getting to in a second. I wanted to show Maggie and Jordan some love, because that Antonio stuff had me feeling some type of way. And I'm just glad there was no Antonio this episode. I think it feels like Maggie's kind of decided she's moved on from doing that. You know, so yeah, it's I think that's something. Zay is saying Hasty dealt with angst that kept apart last season. Joggy is facing it this season, which means Abigail will have to go through this next season. Oh, you're already planning it, Zay. Yes, we're gonna get some Abigail. Okay, but Magic Me asked a very interesting question, and about Mel and Ruby. And you know, I've said this before, y'all. When it comes to Mel and Ruby, I like them. I think they have a cute dynamic. I think they're pretty together. I definitely think they're both gorgeous women, you know, pretty women together. We love it. We love to see it. But my main issue with them is I don't think Ruby gets enough. Look at this, right? We had Ruby, like, what was it, 2 episodes, it feels like now? And there's been no Ruby since, right? Ruby got mentioned, but only from Abigail throwing shade at her, simpering barista, as Abigail called her.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if I can't tell if the writers are not investing in them, or if it's like they have plans for not letting them go. Like maybe part of me feels like it's like, maybe they are okay with Ruby and Mel, right? Maybe Ruby and Mel are going to be the new thing, but they just aren't investing in Mel's plot line of her romance, which I don't think would be a good look. Or maybe they're not investing in it because they don't think that she's going to be around for long, because I feel like there's more drama and angst going on with Abigail and Mel than Ruby and Mel. And on TV shows, I just feel like it's like, I don't know, I just feel like it's all kind of like this. It's hard to explain, because on a TV show, they don't usually let totally happy couples just be. They have to give them kind of a plot to help them grow. That's what we're seeing with Maggie and Jordan. That's what we've seen with Harry and Macy. And it doesn't seem like they're giving that with Mel and Ruby. And let me know what y'all think in the chat, and also the replay, because we talk about this. It's funny how this is the hot topic when it comes to this show, because that seems to be the main thing right now, because I am lost on that. I don't know what game the showrunners are playing right now. I want to believe that the way I would see it, if I was looking at it from an objective point of view, I would feel like they're building up Abigail and Mel, that they're creating tension and drama and a slow burn between them to eventually have something happen. The other part of me is like, maybe not. But I feel like I've seen this with shows before, that this is what happens. But I know a lot of you like Mel and Ruby too. I like them too. I think they're cute together. I just don't know how long that is gonna last if she's hardly ever there. Right? Let me know. What do you think, Ma?
I think they talk. I mean, she's not exactly there in, physical form, but I'm sure she talked to Mel.
Mm-hmm.
But they're having us thinking that they still communicate with each other.
Well, yeah, but it's off screen, and isn't that weird?
Yeah, but moment at this time, yeah. But she's still in Mel life. So.
Yeah. Jaylee is saying, hopefully we'll get some ship resolution once they can lift some Rona. Yes, agreed. Maybe when things can start happening.
Normal.
Yeah, Liliana is saying, yeah, the lack of relationship we see from Ruby and Mel makes me not feel attached to them. We didn't even get to see Ruby have a deep talk over accepting magic, considering Mel is a charm one. Yeah, we never had that conversation. The last time they really talked about it, she wasn't for it. And then suddenly it's like, no, I'm here for you. Why did such an important conversation happen off screen? Angela points out, I love the fire and ice between Abby and Mel. Magic Me says, I feel like they should at least give more backstory to Ruby. So I definitely agree with that. I just want to know Ruby a bit better. And I feel like the only time she comes around is when they want to give Mel a little drama, but it's like they have to do a little bit more than that, Stephanie is saying, I think that Abigail has a more compelling dynamic compared to Melby. Jayla is saying, Mel is about the charm life and Ruby wants nothing to do with magic. I don't think they are going to last.
I don't understand why she don't want, she's a witch.
Yeah. Liliana is saying, I don't know what to think, since I feel there's a double standard for gay characters in television movies. So I don't feel like normal tropes apply. That's what I'm saying. You got it right on the head, Liliana. That's where I'm confused. I'm like, if I was looking at this in any other way, unfortunately, I'd be like, okay, they're clearly going with Abby and Mel because I'm hardly seeing the other character. So this is where they're going with this. Sure. But see, the problem is because characters who are gay and bi don't get that kind of attention, sometimes they're pigeonholed in plot lines that aren't really going anywhere and just there to say, yeah, look, she's got a girlfriend. Yeah, she's got somebody. It's cool. And I don't want that either. Like, if they're going to give me Mel and Ruby, give me Mel and Ruby as a full-fledged relationship, like you give me Harry and Macy, like you give me the angst, the wonderful angst between Jordan and Maggie. Don't give me a thing where I'm just supposed to accept that Ruby's gonna be her girlfriend, even though there's no movement going forward until randomly we hear that they want to move in together or something. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like I can't tell which way the writers are doing it. I don't know if they're doing that tokenism representation of this relationship, right? Or if they really are building up Abigail and Mel. That's my confusion on it. Angela is saying, I think Mel should care enough about Ruby to not put her anywhere near the magic world. They should just be friends. Stephanie is saying they have to be building up Abigail. Yeah, I think if the regular tropes and ways apply, then I agree with you, Stephanie. I think they're building up Abigail. But if they're doing it so they're tokenizing a situation, they may just keep Mel with Ruby and just never really develop it in a significant way, which I think would be just a disaster for all the characters involved and a missed opportunity. Ray is saying, I don't think Ruby and Mel have chemistry like Abby does with so many characters. Zay says, I wonder if Abby is the reason why Ruby doesn't want anything to do with magic. That would provide proper angst for Melby and Abigail while also fleshing out Ruby's character. Yeah, and then we'd have a real triangle. I'm not against complete triangles. I just want all 30 parties to be equally represented if we're going to have a real contest in this situation. Except for Hasty. No Hasty triangles. Just Hasty. Ray is saying, LOL, laugh out loud. Ruby and Mel is like watching paint dry, and Abby and Mel they're gonna kill each other or share intimate secrets. Blue Wolf is saying maybe Ruby doesn't like magic because she feels like she gets addicted to it. Like the original Charm, there was a character who got to the magic. That would be great. What if that was a thing? What if Ruby was addicted to magic? I would love that. That would give us something to play with Ruby. But right now, she's just kind of nice and she's regular. Just, but with Abigail and Mel, just to kind of connect it to it, I really thought that dynamic was interesting. I thought it was interesting they made it so that Mel was the one that said that to Abigail, left without giving an apology, called her irredeemable and just bounced. It was such a moment that we know that if we saw this between any other relationship or whatever, we'd call that angst, right, guys? I think we call it angst. And it was interesting, though, because I was like, oh, my gosh, Mel, why would you just do that? Her demon side's trying to kill herself. What are you doing right now, right? And I do y'all think, let me know, because I know I kind of know some of the answers, but do y'all think that Mel owes Abigail an apology or not? And do you think this is set up for angst between the two of them? Or do you think it's just going to be forgotten? I don't think it's going to be necessarily forgotten because it really did look like it hurt Abby's feelings that Mel out of all of them would say that to her. And I thought that was significant that they made it so that Abby hurt that Abby's feelings were hurt by Mel of all people.
Mm-hmm.
Not Harry, not Macy, but Mel. Stephanie is saying, I'm choosing to be optimistic and I will give the writers the benefit of the doubt. Stephanie is also saying, I think Mel should apologize. I think she should apologize too.
She should too.
Yeah, she should apologize.
She should, because that wasn't, I know Abigail got her moments and everything, but she, in a way, she really do like Mel.
Yeah.
Because she always said that, Mel kind of understand her a little more.
Yeah.
And I think Mel do kind of understand Abigail. So if they're going to build up to that and then let her be conflicted with her feelings for Ruby, that will be a good storyline.
Yeah. Magic Me is saying, I think I remember Ruby saying her mom dated an abusive demon or something like that. Maybe we will get more story related. That'd be good. I'd be here for it. Give Ruby some backstory, y'all. If y'all going to keep her around, give her some backstory. Jaylee is saying, yes, she should apologize for falsely accusing her. Nothing else. Laugh out loud. Mel has been kind of harsh, honestly. I agree. Like someone else pointed out, I think, I'll try to find it, but someone else pointed out in the comment section that she was threatening Jordan. Funny enough, Jordan stayed though, right? Jordan's like, nah, I'm good. Because Jordan, because he's been in war, he sensed that Abigail wasn't really a threat.
Yeah, he knew that.
He was like, you just try to do all that stuff. He's like, I'm good.
Yeah, if he felt that way, he would jump through that portal.
Yeah. Zay is saying Abby was threatening Jordan, though. I get that Mel was in the wrong, but Abby keeps choosing the wrong thing to do at the wrong time. Both need to grow up. And isn't that a crazy dynamic for a ship, right? Them both being kind of hotheads, the ice and the fire. That was a great dynamic. Them yelling at each other. And then,
Harry came and said it wasn't true.
Yeah.
And then the way she went, and she dropped the ice just.
Yeah.
And she looked at her like, you owe me an apology here.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Let me see. Yeah, Angela saying, I got so choked up when Jordan told Abby that he overcame his demons by repenting. It was a good moment, you know? And I agree, Angela, she wouldn't hurt. She knew that too. She's like, I wasn't going to hurt you. That was all theatrics because Abigail is emotionally stunted. So that's her idea of how she plays with her friends. And it's not right, but it doesn't make her a crappy person. You know what I mean? Yeah. Ray is also pointing out Ruby character is just an accessory to Mel and a plot device to further Mel outside of charmed and work life like other sisters. Yeah. But I definitely see the dynamic. I think if this was any other situation, I definitely would think that they're building up the angst with Abigail and Mel. And yes, Ray is also pointing out Mel for being so black and white have always gone for those dark rogue witches. She does. She has a thing for the darker kind of entities of people. So it's very interesting to me that they placed her with Ruby of all people who wants nothing to do with magic, just wants to be a barista. It's like, wait a minute, Mel doesn't date people like this. But then again, maybe she could change. Maybe she's tired of people playing with fire like we had with Maggie being tired of the Parker situation, so there's that. And Damie is saying, I think Mel should apologize, but then again, Abby has never apologized for anything in her life. So if Mel doesn't apologize, I'm not pissed. Stephanie is saying, if Abby is on the road for being redeemed, then Ruby doesn't stand a chance. That's also very true. I feel like if they redeem Abigail, it's gonna be over. It's gonna be over. Like, I don't think Ruby's gonna last. If they redeem Abigail, the next step is putting her, with Mel, because they got to pair off these people. Jordan's with Maggie, Harry's with Macy. Who's Mel's person, right?
But now remember that you don't always redeem in one little thing. It go bit by bit.
And I want that. I mean, not to bring up OG Charm, but we saw that with Cole, right?
Yeah.
He tried. Maybe Abigail is the Cole of the reboot.
I think so. But, it is going to try because, like I said, not everybody get redeemed real quick.
No, and I want the slow burn. They don't need to be immediate. Zay is saying, am I the only one who misses Katrina? I liked her worms and all. I agree. That kind of threw me off that she was just kind of there for a plot device and then she bounced. I thought that was really weird. I don't know if something where like the actress had to go or something. It was just kind of weird. I thought they were bringing her in to be the slow build with Mel and she just kind of left. And I was like, what? Like, okay.
Yeah, they could have just brought the girl back. And who's taking over the store? And that's another thing. They could get Harry that store.
I think that's what all of us are saying, that they could have given, the store to Harry or someone. I think everyone's pushing for him to get a job. Yeah. Although his job is protected.
Give him a job.
Harry's not a scrub, y'all. Stop it.
Harry got too much time on here. Give him a job.
Yeah. Stephanie's saying exactly. While Abby is being redeemed, we can have Mel be and then their downfall. Then enter Abigail. Exactly. Yeah. I think, it's weird. I feel like what we're getting is a build up or at least some focus on Abigail and Mel. Even Macy pointed it out to Mel. Like, you're always giving her this. And like, even Macy peeped it and they had her say that. And I think that's very telling, right? That's very telling. So
I think Mel in a way, she sees Abby's side, a good side of Abby, but she just don't, and when she said that, when Macy said that to her, I mean, that kind of pissed her off a little too.
Yeah. Yeah. That probably one could argue, was Mel overcompensating? Did she feel like Macy called her out about Abigail and was like, oh no, now I've got to say something, not like, oh no, but you know what I mean? Like,
and you see how she got mad. She said, it Abby, and she, and she just went there. I mean, damn, you didn't say, and see how Harry looked at her like, where you go?
Yeah.
When she knew where she lived, she went straight there.
Blake, thanks for joining us in the chat. Blake is saying they had some monsters listed on the chalkboard. My favorite was Pegasus, not nice. I didn't notice that. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Now, for next one, someone show us a screenshot for it. I'd love to see that.
Oh, see that.
That's a good observation, Blake. Thanks for that. That is too cute.
You look at that. I said,
sometimes it's the details.
I do that, but I didn't really. I was trying to understand the whole plot line of this, but it was good though.
Yeah, it was a really good episode. And I am even more excited to see now what the tablet's gonna say. My final thing with the ship talk is just Ruby seems to be coming in every 3 episodes. That's not the way you build a relationship on a show that very much centers on relationships. It just doesn't seem, they need to bump her up to a regular if they think, or something. I see Abby more than I see her, and that's weird. Like one of them is going out with one of the charm ones, right? So, Davey is letting us know the 411 about Katrina. Katrina, the actress, got a lead part for another show, I think. Mel got the store. Please bear in mind, Mel pushes people away when she is in love. That part too. Yeah. I agree. That's why I think it's very obvious what's going on with her and Abigail. There's this push and pull, and Mel is pushing Abigail away. And so, yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. Yes, that's what I said. Like, that's what I was pointing out, Angela, that she was like, I think you've been, turned a certain way because you're simpering barista. Why is Abigail so hard pressed on Ruby? She seems to not like Ruby.
She wants Mel.
Exactly.
So she's going to talk to you. I'm going to talk about your girlfriend then. You don't need her. Look what,
Yeah. Well, I have to actually, y'all, because I was running a little bit behind and starting the live stream. I didn't get to check out the promo for next week, for 2 weeks from now. So I got to check it out. I hope it's not bad.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope maybe it's braids. Please tell me it's braids. Please tell me he didn't really cut it all off.
Yeah. I saw that hair. I said, huh?
Taryn is asking, off topic, but do you think there will be a hasty wedding in season 4? I don't know. I feel like a hasty wedding might be too quick right now, especially if we're going to get most of the season of them being apart. Yeah.
We're just coming back and they just starting to get them really started. I don't think that it should be a wedding just yet.
Yeah, I think I don't necessarily want a slow build for them, but I want them to enjoy being a couple for a while.
Well, yeah, they have to get that first because right now they're not really, because anything can come between them.
Yeah.
Deep love.
Yes. Liliana is saying the next 2 weeks will be tough after that promo, Chauncey. You might be better off not watching. Okay, so I guess Jordan looked really good. That's what's happening here. That's what I'm getting from these comments, y'all. There's a little thirst going on for Jordan. Davey is pointing out the thing is Ruby and Mel won't last, period. That's why CW ain't wasting no money on Ruby Mel. Yeah. Damie is saying next episode, Macy and Jordan, the sisters have a Latina cousin, and Rupert Evans directed the episode. Okay, cool. Jaylee is pointing out, I would love to see a hasty wedding, but maybe after another time jump and us actually being able to see them together for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot there, and it was a great episode. It was a really solid episode. And I think that overall, it was probably my favorite of the season thus far. And I think it opens up a lot of things. I think those of you who are probably theorizing that Macy may eventually take over the Shia group are probably right. I think they should totally go that route, her being I thought Julia was going to give her the whole company. I'm surprised he didn't, and I'm surprised he only gave her that aspect of it, especially since he was talking about how great she is with everything she does. I thought he was going to give her the labs and the facilities and stuff for her to continue that, which was why I was surprised that that didn't happen, and he just gave her safe space. Not that it's bad that you go out with a guy for only a couple months, he gives you a whole building, but I thought there would be more. Yes, exactly, Mom. But yeah, overall, I love this episode. And once again, because you know that's how CW does it, guys. We're gonna have another break, and then we'll be back here with you on the 12th, right? But anything else you want to say, Mom, before we close it out?
No, there's nothing else I have to say.
Yeah. But yeah, y'all, this has been great. And I always love doing this with all of you, and thank you so much for, joining us in our live streams, for subscribing, for liking this video, and like this video if you haven't already, and also subscribing, and and check out the other videos. I love talking about horror, comics, dark fantasy, such as this show and others. This week I'll be trying to do a few reviews. Godzilla versus Kong comes out this week, so I'll be trying to do a little bit. I'll be trying to do a review of that. And I got a few other ones coming up, so you should be able to check that out as well. Thank you all once again. Have a safe rest of your week. Stay great as you all are. And until next time. Night, y'all.
Good night.